Now, a lot of the drills we're going to do today are working first from the neutral stance on the center line, and then moving on to the changing side neutral stance and moving like we just did with the central line. So the next movement is the jamdo. It's a full slash. Now, a moment ago we did it in the center line, so same thing, we were just doing this movement, changing the guard. We now extend the sword out, and the top part of your fist pivots forward now. So there's like a little pivot at the end of your hand. You maintain that position with that angle with your fists and arms. Now, a lot of you will be aware of this movement. Okay, you see it in a lot of Wing Chun systems. We apply it in the Biu-Ji form. We apply it in the Chum Kyo form. We apply it in the Selim Tao form. Okay, so you'll see it a jerking of the wrists. Okay, with jab. Okay, now this movement here is now put into play, and any of those who you see this movement, this working with the sword strengthens this movement in the wrists and the hands and the arms. So instead of just changing the guard now on the center line, the angle of the hand come forward and pivot forward, and you'll see a full extension. Note that I'm not cutting vertically. It's not a vertical cut. It's not a vertical cut. Because the swords are on an angle, the cut comes out on the angle. Cuts out on an angle. So if you imagine a piece of fruit sitting on a table, I want to cut a quarter piece off the top of the fruit. Just a wedge. So, and when I do it, I extend my arm all the way out. So like when I punch, I extend my arm out, and then there's a pivot. And then it recoils back. So you get that rotation occurring, like when you punch or when you're changing your guard, you have this full extension. The top of the sword could almost run parallel to the top of your forearm. Now, this produces all the power to the tip of the weapon. You want the full extension of your weapon for range and power. Just like you extend your fist all the way out, you don't punch with a bent fist, or you don't generate any power. It's like hitting a golf ball and stopping when you hit the ball. You've got to follow through. Yeah? So the same thing applies. You want to extend the completion, you completely extend the weapon out. Now, traditionally the sword was blunt at this point. When the monks developed this weapon, the legend goes, or the history of the verbal tradition goes, the monks only had a very small portion of the sword sharpened, only the very tip. So it was essential if they wanted to maim, because they never killed because they were Buddhist, if they wanted to maim their opponent, they needed to use the tip. However, if they only wanted to injure, they used the dull part of the sword. This is also important if they were dealing with other types of weapons like spears or poles or swords. If you have a blade along the whole weapon and someone swings a stick at you, you can often get caught, your blade can get caught in their weapon if it's sharp. So one of the benefits of having this dull was it just created a deflection at this part of the weapon. But the full extension would generate a cut to either the fingers, the wrists, the forearms, the elbows, sometimes the knee, sometimes the ankle, but it wasn't meant to kill. Later, because China's been a warring country, they had little wars, skirmishes, what have you. When they were having the Manchurian takeover and the Han were trying to overthrow the Manchus, it became a revolutionary weapon because it was easy to carry without being seen. So they could conceal it very easily in the sleeves of their clothing, or in the back of their boots, or in the back of their belt, or what have you, with the hook. Then they designed it with a blade across the whole weapon, and it was much more, I guess, dangerous because they could cut with any part of the weapon. Okay, so When we extend the weapon, extend it right out, get a nice fluid action. Try not to stop and pause at the end of your cut, or you can, but try not to get into a habit of stopping and pausing. You need to be able to keep your movement, your weapons moving all the time, because as soon as you stop, it'll take a second for you to get cut, and that could be the end of your ability to use your weapon and defend your life. Okay. All right. So we're just doing it on the center line, extending the jamdo all the way out. Okay. 1 minute of this. You try not to let when you're doing this movement, you'll note that my wudo, my protecting sword, is right in the center. I don't want to pull it over my shoulder like that. It'll cut your ear off or something. All right. Because you need to be able to use that weapon. You need to be able to use that wudo immediately. You don't want it floating over behind your back. Okay? All right. We're now going to apply exactly the same technique, but you're going to be changing side neutral. Okay? You'll be moving. You'll be stepping with your feet. Okay? But keep yourself evenly distributed. Even though we step, you want your weight to be in the center. Now, note that as I step onto one leg, there's going to be a certain point where all my weight is on one side. Only a very small moment. But my center stays in the same position. My center stays in the same position as much as I possibly can. Okay? All right. All right, the next movement we're going to...
what was that movement called?
Jamdo.
Jamdo.
Yeah, it's a slash sword. That's basically what it means. The butterfly sword is not a hacking weapon. It's not a, hack into somebody weapon, chopping. It's a dragging, slashing weapon. Okay. You can also point with the sword as well, but generally it's for slashing, to slash. Okay. The next movement is seal, which is small, little. Do is the slash, or swords, little slash, or jam. Okay, so little slash will work from here. You'll start in a neutral stance. Both your hands will be elbows in against the side of your body. The angle of the weapon is very similar to applying a tansao, but your hand is not right in the center because you have both your swords. It's just off the center line. Each sword is facing the center line. Yeah. Okay. Now, one sword will travel down to your right sword will travel to your left hip. Note that the lines of the sword stay parallel to each other on that angle, and then it'll come up, back into position, and you'll swap again. It'll come up into the same position, and you'll swap again. It's sort of like you're traveling down the forearm. This sword is protecting this arm. So the edge of my guard will go out further than my elbow, just a little bit. So it comes up and you swap. Comes up and you swap. Comes up and you swap. And note that I'm not flicking it out at the end. I'm not going like that. I'm just dropping the sword down. Both my swords are pointing here. Okay, so start doing this. So now we apply the same movement, changing side neutral stance. So from that position, this position here can actually occur from an open guard position. The back sword is going to come up like you were traveling before when you were changing, but you're going to change and draw it down. Lift it up, change down. It's exactly the same movement. You lift it up, it comes up the forearm, the bottom hand comes up the forearm. The hand that comes up is a blocking maneuver. You're blocking with the back of the sword, and then you cut down. You come up, 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 and you just alternate. Again, you're changing side neutral stance, so if you feel comfortable, you can be moving slightly to the right and slightly to the left. Take your time. you're asking, okay, how we apply this? Why is it a why is it a seal jump? It's short slash. Now you don't extend your arm out. It's a very small cutting movement. It's a small slash. Yeah. So look, we've looked at really 3 movements. Changing the guard. Okay, so Costa, if you just come stand here, and if you guys come over here. If he's changing, if his target is not my body, not my torso, or my neck, at this point here, he can't reach there for a minute at all. His target is this point right here, this little gap here. Yeah, that's right. But you see how much he overextend. So this time, when you do, it's just a whip. He's aiming to cut the 2 tendons that run across the wrist. Right there, when you look at, if you make a fist, you'll see 2 tendons running down through the thumb. Those 2 tendons operate and control the thumb. If you cut those, a person cannot hold the sword. If you cannot use your thumb, all you can do is grip without a thumb. It's very hard to hold anything with any stability without a thumb. Okay? So, as he goes to cut that point, that's the first thing we did. We just changed guards. So, yeah, and then you're going to cut here, come on the other side, yeah, and I just change. And his movement is much more exaggerated. Remember, you want to extend, see? Yeah, you want to extend that sword out and on that angle, because that angle, go back, next. That angle gets inside that crevice, that angle right there. Okay, here, the next movement would be if you can get to here, the tendon across the outside of the elbow and the muscle there. That means he loses the opportunity to use his arm. Okay, so we see the jam, we see the guard, but now we look at the short slashing movement. Yeah, seal jam. Okay, so he goes to slash here. Now come again. Next one. Yeah. Come. Now just slow down so they can see what I'm doing. I'm dragging, or yeah, just stop there now. I'm dragging. Now just stop. It's either here on the thumb and the finger. Again, I want to get that thumb if I can. Or I'm going to get the wrist to cut the inside of the forearm. This part of the weapon is right in the center. If you can see, if I can also latch onto him. Yeah, well, I'm not disabled, but I can draw you. It's a bit slippery with the plastic sword, but you can feel the tension through as I grip here. And again, you're asking, do you generate power with the strike? Not only do I, if he cuts here, I create, go again please. I create a power for my block and for my cut. So both. Okay. Now I'm just working inside his attack. I don't want to be inside because then you have to deal with both weapons. When I'm inside, come forward, just extend your sword out. When I'm here, I have to defend this sword now. I have to defend. Now if I get to here, however, now I just did the same thing, but I used it to clear his arm rather than to stay inside the arc. So if he's slashing here, yeah, and I get to here, and because I can lock this movement, I can actually, as I cut here, I can actually hit with the hook of the weapon into his arm and come on this side now. And now I have to put 2 cross slashes across both muscles of the arm. 1, 2. This is the application. All right, so what we may do is we'll do 2 minutes each as a rotation. One person will just be feeding. Don't be all, super fast. The person who will feed will dictate the speed of which your technique will be produced. The person attacking. So just do it as a fluid action. We're not fighting. We're not really using the swords now. We're just you know, developing a skill set with the weapon and getting the positions right. We need to do the positions right to program the muscles correctly. All right, so we'll do it as a rotation. So one will feed, and the next will feed, and the next will feed, and we'll do 2 minutes each. The odd person will just do it in the air. Just practice in the air and do some footwork. Okay, so grab a partner.